Kimbo, Nakatanzambi Yamazulu, King Fuku Akuisa, glory, glory. All praises to the Most High. First, I want to say CM to all the Bantus in Africa, all the Bantus in Americas, all the Bantus in Europe, Oceania, Asia, the Caribbean. Um, Special CME to all the Bantu brothers, Jonathan Cholombo, Issachar couple, Misia Kadima, Miss Mikhail Massa, also uh, Chiba Malonga. I know he did a lot about this whole wake up call. Um, I have some music on here in the background I'm going to play because I want to be spiritual with this because this is going to be a very important video. Pastor Mello, or this man has awakened a lot of people, especially me. I've actually had some email conversations with him, and I know one thing I'm for certain is I'm gonna read the scripture. The dragon is trying to interfere with this knowledge because the revelation is coming to the world on a major deception that's going to soon overturn this world. And if you haven't heard Pastor Mello speak, I encourage you to become a member of the Issachar channel. I know they're having problems, so they might be on Periscope. But there were some interviews that he did with Pastor Mello that revealed some shocking revelations about Bantu people across the world. First of all, I just want to say that in this account, and I apologize, I'm not going to be too loud because it's nighttime here and my wife is actually sleeping early, even though it's on a weekend, so she's been tired. So normally she's upstairs watching TV about this time, but she really went to bed early. So I want to say this is going to be, and I'm sorry it's been so long. I've been doing a lot of learning, a lot of discussing. I know people have even asked me about mentoring, which is not a problem for me. There's been a lot of revelations been given to me over these past few weeks, especially with this whole COVID-19 breakout thing. This is gonna be a pretty long video, so I'm gonna try not to be too long, but this is gonna really wake up a whole lot of people on this world. I know people are gonna call me. Those who might see this are gonna say, "Oh, this guy's crazy. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about." But if you put things in perspective as to what's happening in this world today, and I'm hoping this video even gets out because I know there are some forces out there that aren't ready to be exposed yet. There are some people out there who are not ready to be exposed yet, and they're still going to fight to the end until this whole thing comes about, because they have to make sure that as many people are brainwashed when this event takes place that's going to be happening, and why we're in the lockdown. And I'm even going to go into who's really running the country right now, because a lot of people think it's Donald Trump, and it's not. He declared a martial law, excuse me. And so, first of all, I want to thank Tatanzambi Yamazulu for this opportunity to speak about Wodi Kolele for any zones that I have. Allow me to be able to give this message to the people, your people in the world, to understand what time we're really in, that we're not, as far as the Bible's concerned, we're less than a second. In the mighty name of Yahuwah, Ben Yahuwah, in Geta. Alright, I'm going to get into Revelations 12. And this is where I had a prayer, and the Most High, this is a prayer that hasn't been stopped being answered, which led to the revelation that I'm going to talk about, that led to me interacting with Pastor Mello, because I did pray for the revelation of the Messiah. And it's been a long journey in my life. I turned 46 this year, praise the Most High. And, I'm going to go over some things about my life to where it's almost like it was meant to be. Because even from the time that I was born to as an illegitimate child to a teenager who didn't want me, and was given up for adoption, which is a blessing because this is why I know I'm here, because it could have been an abortion, which of course we know is a sacrifice to the false Messiah. If you don't know that, go back to the Canaanite history. There was actually a practice of aborting babies to the demons that's been going on since Babylon and before that. This is just bringing it all back in this country, and they put it under the guise of helping teenagers, okay, deal with unwanted births or people who are been involved. And for those of you that people want to say, well, you hate this country, you don't need to be here. I'm going to tell you that first and foremost, the biggest lie about the United States of America is it's not even in the country. You can do your research. There's a lot of myth history about the Moors. I'm going to get into that as well. And how this country even got its name, because they lied to you about Amerigo Vespucci. There was a revelation given to me about how this country got its name, and the sad part about it, it's affiliated with the language of the Banabeta people that was called Aramaic by the fake, forgive me, can't say it, the small hats, because I know if I say that, and their names, this will get pulled and flagged, because I know the lady, she's cracking down because the beast system is kicking in and they don't want people to know about things, and they're flagging certain words in your videos now. If you're exposing any fake things about the COVID-19 epidemic, which I know people are actually dying from, but I'm going to give you scripture that's going to relate to the times that the Most High said he would bring back the plagues of Egypt. And a lot of people have speculated what this COVID-19 is. Some people say it's a false flag. Some people say it's this and that. But what everybody forgets to understand, and every revelation I can tell you, this is the Most High's creation. This is Tatanzambi, Congo, as we know him, the Banabet, the Bakongo people. We know him as Congo. Okay, those of us who are now awakened. I know that Hebrew Israelites have really not wanted to accept that, and I'm going to get into why that is, because there was a movement by the Catholic Church that has a lot of secrets about, because of who they really work with. And I'm going to get into some scriptures that explain to you how you break away from the harlot that talks about in Revelation, that was given a revelation to me. And I'm going to get into the man that came, that Pastor Miller talked about, Simeon Toko, why the Catholic Church, as he talked about the third prophecy of Fatima, third secret. It's a big deal with the Catholic Church that they really think that the Fatima thing was connected to Catholicism, and it wasn't. It never was. They just took it that way because they appeared to the little shepherd children. But we forget that the Most High chooses who he wishes to speak to, and he says out of the mouth of babes will come words of wisdom, and that's why these people were, certain. We don't know why the Most High chooses what he does, but he was ready to do his thing to notify his people about his coming. And I'm going to get into the way that the Christianity has, in a lot of ways, especially Western Christianity, purposely mistranslated or mistaught out of context the coming of the Savior. It says he's coming. But where Christianity and where Catholicism altered a lot of our scriptures is how they determined how he was going to come, because they knew that there was a secret they were hiding. Alright, so I'm going to get into Revelations 12. It said, a great sign was seen in heaven, Zulu, a woman clad with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. Hallelujah. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth to another sign that was seen in the Zulu, and saw a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on his heads, and his tail draws a third of the stars of the Zulu, and throws them down to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she bore a male child who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught away to the Elimo and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she was a place prepared by Elimo to be nourished there on 1,260 days. And there came the fighting in the Zulu. Micaiah, as I know it now, they call him Michael, Micaiah. And the messengers fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his messengers fought. But they were not strong enough, nor was a place found for them in the Zulu any longer. And the great dragon was thrown down, out the serpent called the devil, and the Satan, who leads the world astray. He was thrown down to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. Alright, now I'm going to stop there. If you'll notice, if you pay close attention to the history of men, okay, this is very important because a lot of our history is deceived because of these particular beings. Okay, one of the things that many people don't know in this world is these fallen beings have tried to keep their identity unknown so as to make people believe they don't exist. In other words, you hear about them is in the scriptures, and Christianity talks about them. What you fail to realize is that every scientific person that initiated a theory in Earth's history was in secret, a secret society member that worshiped these beings. The whole intent of what they have done throughout history is to hide and mislead those who have no intelligence or no concept of the real history. Because the one thing, like the Most High always says, they can tell you anything about history because you weren't there, the elites. It's all about control. If you haven't figured out about control yet, all you got to do is look at the society we live in. You have an illusion of freedom, okay, because I can sit here and talk to you about what I say. But if certain people hear you say something, and I'm going to tell you exactly about what the times we're in right now, because a certain organization is now cracking down because they now have the authority in secret, okay, is that, the world that we live in is not the same world that you think. I'm gonna get into how the United States is not a country, okay? Unless you've been living under a rock, which I know a lot of people have been, the United States was founded by Freemasons, okay? The Moors and the Scottish Rites and all of those people are all secret society members, okay? Every religion on this planet is affiliated with some form of individuals that are secret society, because every religion that we worship on this planet is under the control of the false Messiah. That's why if you look at all the religions, there's a celebration on the 25th of December for different gods, but it's really the same God, okay? He has different names to people. And the funniest part about why Christianity doesn't know this is because you've been programmed not to touch any other religion or even look at it or whatever. And the reason why they did that is so you don't understand that these other religions celebrate this birthday of the same being in every religion. Okay? So Katanzambi, that's why he made it clear in the scriptures, there's certain things you celebrate, certain things you don't. And what you don't do is traditions of men. You do his traditions. You do the scriptures as the Messiah instructed about what you were supposed to remember. And it wasn't what they call Easter either, because he never changed it from Passover. Or as we call it, the Bantu people, Ipasika. Okay? So how did the devil deceive the whole world? This is something that even when I really didn't realize it when I was young, I had visions. Like I already knew when I was a teenager, I had a serious vision about the destruction of Washington D.C. I was like, I didn't understand it. You know, it was weird. And this is I'm back in the 90s. Okay, this is right around the time, gangster rap was coming out. All these different things were happening in America, and I'll get to that. Why we deal with things we are in society. All right, so one of the things that Pastor Mello talked about is her secret of Fatima. If you know, there's 3 secrets of Fatima, 2 that were revealed when the Lucia de Santos was one of the children, and she had sealed 3 secrets, of which 2 of them had happened during the time frame of World War II, the end of World War II, World War One, and then the 3rd one was the doozy that John the 23rd. If you ever get a chance, read Tom Dark's story about Simeon Toko. And one of the things he's going to talk about is what happened with that Pope, John the 23rd. He's like, this is so shaking, I'm not even going to read it. And that's going to stay sealed. Well, one of the things that happened, and this is why a lot of Christians nowadays, they speculate on this scripture about the 3rd, about this child being born. You've seen so many people trying to speculate, what does it mean in interpretation. They look at the stars, look at the signs, but what they don't actually realize is this is why the Catholic Church never talked about this particular scripture, and why Christianity doesn't really comprehend it as well as they should. And of course, the ones that know it, the truth about it, wouldn't tell you. This is meaning that the Messiah was going to come incognito. Okay? And what it meant was this child was actually going to be born. Okay? It's not a fake star child. It's not any child. It's a real living soul person that was going to come back and do things to prepare this was supposed to interpret as the coming of for the people. Okay? Now, the woman of Fatima is this woman in the scripture when she gave the warning. What Catholicism and many of the belief systems have done over the years, and this is the greatest way the devil has deceived the world, is he's not told you since Constantine, among others, who are the Most High's people and who are not. And the Ashkenazi Jews, as you know, they claim this, right? There's a lot of other groups. Now, one of the things I want to mention, it says Ashkenazi Jews, which if you go back in scripture, you know that Ashkenaz was the son of Japheth. Okay? You know that the Jews are descendants of Shem. And I'm just going to let you decide from there, because if I go any further, I know they're going to be like, nah, you can't dog this out. And I'm not dogging anybody out, but this is why it talks about how the devil deceives the whole world. And one of the things he wanted to do that a lot of people don't understand is keep those who can bring back the Messiah in the dark. Because if you remember, he said, you will not hear again from me until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Tatanzambi, or Most High, or Lord, as the Christians know it. Okay? So it was imperative over the years, and this is where you get into 2 Thessalonians about the delusion that the dragon kept this secret so that, because his time, his time was short, remember, he wants to take as many people with him to hell at where he's going when his time is up for the 1,000 years as possible. That's why it says he deceives the whole world. And one of the biggest things that he deceived about is who the real Hebrews are. Okay. Now, I know there's going to be Hebrew Israelites. They always talk about, we came from Palestine or we came from wherever. You know, there's certain, the Palestinians even have said there's been no Jews here. um, there's been speculation that Angola or Namibia or those places may have been originally in South America. But what they don't understand is when the Masons came over here, they established America as the New Jerusalem in their minds. Okay, so they taught it to them people like that. We're in the New Jerusalem. And so they constructed a lot of things according to that mindset with the false Messiah misleading who they, the intentions, those who were really high up in there knew that they were actually here to find, I get into it, the out of the Gentiles is what they speculated America was. And then they speculated that it was, I'll get into this too, but the false Messiah has always known where the real Hebrews are. So any place that Rome touched when they came over to around the world, they knew they were Bantus. Okay. Now I know there's always been this argument about Native Americans or whatever and Indians not being Bantus, but what we fail to realize is there was no such name as Native American. There was no such name as Indian. And one of the things that you're going to find in my revelation is the Masons and the Freemasons and the Moors were coming over here to alter history long before Columbus was put into the books. If you remember Leif Erikson, he was supposed to be the Viking. Well, remember the Vikings had horns when they came over. Well, the original Vikings did not have horns, so they were pretending so that you would hear, oh, the Vikings came over here. No, those were back. Those were the way the Knights Templar and other groups hid their identity coming over here to interfere with because the false Messiah, like I said, the devil. One thing happened with the devil, he has the foresight to know what's coming. So he sends his people that run interference so that what would happen is when certain group of Bantus met certain group of Bantus, they wouldn't recognize each other. Okay, that's just the way they wanted it, so that because they knew if the Bantus realized that they were scattered, it's like, how did y'all get over here? Where y'all been? For years. Every captivity the Banabetu has been in, we've been scattered. Okay. Hence the reason why the Messiah had to say that he needed to go out and talk to his people. Now I know in the case of when they spoke about Simeon Toko, he came to Congo because that's the primary concentration of the Most High's land and the Most High's people. However, the Messiah knows that we're still scattered and haven't been brought home, and that's one of the things that Pastor Miller did a very good job of explaining, that the Messiah can't come in glory until the people come home. And then he broke down the scripture where it talks about, Hosea, and he talked about, Matthew 24, and the way that, unfortunately, this is why this particular man, Simeon Toko, who was raised a Baptist in the Baptist church, missionaries during the 1940s, was kicked out for what he believed in. So I mentioned that first of all that the Bantus were the real Hebrews and that Jesus was black. Okay, and he was able to manifest the power of the Holy Spirit, just like Simon Kimbango and Kempa Vita, but he was able to do it in such a way that even when they tried to kill him, as you will see many times, they couldn't even do it. And one thing I know about the scriptures is the evil ones cannot bring themselves back from the dead. That's why they have to use us to, how should I say, do their bidding. Because they have, and then I'll get into the point of what happened with the Isle of the Gentiles. And for those that don't understand, and they're going to say, well, why there's a real big deal about Atlantis. Why it's called the Atlantic Ocean, why you got Atlanta, Georgia, blah, 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 blah. Because the people who came over here are trying to get home. Okay, you're going to say, well, what does that mean? Well, you have the mighty ones that we weren't supposed to be worshiping. And one of the things that they had the ability to do was to manifest beings that were copycats, but like clones. That's why they got cloning. But they had surrogate souls, and that's why they were more terrors, and they didn't really understand. That's why they had to be taught how to live and everything by the art, by the Most High's people, because they didn't know what to do. They couldn't speak. They didn't have language. All this stuff. They were the real cavemen, and so. But that's why the Most High got angry, because we, as a people, especially Noah's children, weren't supposed to do these things that they did. Okay, they ate a lot of meat, so they hunted like crazy. Protein is a big death. You look at certain. This is why you get hunters now. They love to hunt. We were mostly meant to be farmers and sheep. That's why scientists come up with this whole thing about everybody had to learn how to become hunter-gatherer. Everybody was hunter-gatherer and then had to learn how to farm. That's a deception, because that is not true. The Most High's people knew how to do that. Even in the time of the hunter-gatherers, we're not the same. But that is the way they try to come up with these stories to hide the truth of the Bible, to hide who really is involved, who they're talking to. This beings that they're interacting with, okay? So one of the ways the devil has deceived the whole world is altering our perception of reality. The way he has done that is he has placed those who worship him with the mindset that they rule and dominate, and they're favored over everybody else. Okay, that's been throughout history. But even though the Most High people were always favored, but once we fell, they knew that there was an opportunity to take over. So when it says that, it talks about how the enemies take crafty counsel, and I believe it's in the book of Isaiah, Psalms. Sorry, against thy hidden ones. One of the things it talks about in there, when they take crafty counsel against his hidden ones, you have to understand there's a reason why they don't elaborate on a lot of this stuff about who are the hidden ones. So it's Psalm 83, 3-5. So the intent was when Yisrael fell, or Jerusalem fell, okay, and the Most High said, you killed the Messiah, I'm done with these people. That was the opportunity for every enemy of Yisrael to come up with a plan, okay. Now, one of the things that was happening is the Messiah's teachings were starting to catch fire, and people were starting to demonstrate real power and overcome, do things that most people couldn't even fathom, and they were able to do and they were seeing what we weren't able to see. Most of us who rejected him couldn't see, because in the time frame that we were there, we were blinded by the false Messiah. Okay, this is what happened in our own place, because we had so much interaction with other nations, and we were accepting, even though we were going by the laws of Moses, we were going by a lot of the things, we were still not living according to really the intent of what the Most High wanted us to be, which is to be an example for other nations of how we are to live. We took it as advantage of it as we're the best people on the planet, so we should be able to do it however we please. And that's what led to a lot of our captivities, is because we never, we allowed other nations, we allowed these other mighty beings that were fallen, that these other people were ruled by, to manipulate us and do things that, oh, we can't do stuff like that. We want to be like that. And the Most High was like, well, you have everything that you ever need. You don't need that. And so this is what has been happening. And see, one of the reasons people don't understand that this is, if you look at the way society in America is structured, it's all about profit. It's all about capitalism. It's all about money. That is not a philosophy with the Most High. So that should tell you right off the bat that the people who run this country are not really with the Most High, because you can't be about money and still be with the Most High, but they make you think that. Okay? The Most High says you can't worship Him and money at the same time. So people say, oh, well, these leaders are just misled by money. No, the point is, what they didn't tell you, there's a reason why they don't teach Mystery Babylon very well to you, because they built it. Okay? And that is, in the way a lot of the symbols of ancient Babylon are around this country, but they named them into things that you can't, or I don't know what an obelisk is. Oh, it's the Washington Monument. Or the Statue of Liberty. They don't know that's the Statue of Ishtar. Okay, that this is things that they do. The Arch of Seattle. Oh, that's just the art. They don't realize that's the Baal. That's the Baal Arch in Babylon, because you've never been there. That's why I've come back from people. People are trying to tell the truth. Is, well, that's why they're in the military. They don't let you talk about your missions, because you're going to encounter some parts of history that's going to conflict with what you learn in school. You're gonna be doing things in missions where you're like, man, who really are these people? I thought they were supposed to be the bad people that they keep promoted to us, because the intent is you don't know who the masters are. Okay, so for starters, in every society that you ever been learned about, there's a higher level. Every society, including ours. Okay, but the point is, every other society's higher power was all about, serving them, their gods, in a way that they didn't care about their people as long as they were taken care of. That is not the way the Most High did with His people. He blessed His people that worshiped Him the right way, and gave us what we needed, and kept us safe. And we weren't okay with that, because we kept saying, like, other than like when He wanted a king, He's like, you don't need a king. I'm doing everything you ever need. But all these other nations have kings, but they didn't understand that these kings were leading them astray. When the king was sitting on the throne, it's all about me, me, me. And that's exactly what started to happen with our kingdoms, is that as we put kings on the throne, eventually it comes down to the things that they wanted. Just like what happened with King David. He wanted Bathsheba, and he wasn't supposed to do that. Solomon kept marrying Solomon. He kept marrying women he shouldn't have married. Ahab and Jezebel. Jezebel wanted Ahab to take things from people that didn't belong to him, and this is why the Most High is like, hey, this is why you shouldn't have had a king. And this was the lesson that we learned growing through with our heartache. That so when He sent us the one that set the example of what a leader should be living as one of the Most High's people, we rejected Him, because the way He was teaching was like, what? Even when He was manifesting the power of the Holy Spirit, what? This can't be right. This isn't how we're supposed to be powerful. We're supposed to be running these other nations out of here. And He was trying to demonstrate that, no, you're supposed to be setting an example of the love of the Most High, and how He cares for His own, and how He takes care of His nations. And unfortunately, Yeah, he didn't want us to just lay down, but the army, I'm gonna tell you about because this Simon Toko guy, he actually demonstrated how the Most High will send help when you are worthy. One of the things if you know about the story of Simon Toko, is that he excuse me, he he said I could command any one of these angels to come down and defeat all of you, but he didn't. However, when it came time, this is what happened with Simon Toko. It came time to free the Bakongo people from their captivities. He started to do that. If you actually notice that, what I was really weird about the story about Simon Toko is the same time he was liberating Africa, you see the civil rights movement moving through America, and there's certain truths that were happening. But the way that they jumped on, and this is where the dragon plays a role because he says he came to devour. So the red dragon, as Pastor Mello said, if you actually know that Russia was affiliated with that symbol, the red dragon, because they got rid of Christianity, the czars. And one of the things that people don't understand in America is we, because they're all Masons, they serve the red dragon. All the Stalin was a Mason, Lenin was a Mason. All of our presidents were Masons. They technically served the red dragon. So even though it looked like we were enemies, we were on the same side because remember, when it comes to how these super beings that hate us, because remember, the fallen angels hate the Most High people. These the balls, they hate the Most High people. They want to make sure that everything is about the destruction, and that's why when the dragon came, he's like, all right, we're going. This is going to explain to you what happened to black people in general, why things got so intense. The reason why so many why colonialism in Africa started to become very intense is because of the birth of Simon Toko. And he came and he started to change things in the way that they should be walking with the Most High. Well, this was not the way Rome and others were preaching. They were preaching about being controlled and obedient to mainly your structure of religion, because this is what they were living off of. But here comes a person that's saying, no, this stuff is not right. You can't. This is not the way it goes with the Most High. He's not about religion. He's about spirituality. Like we've been trying to teach. You know, I'm learning. Because one of the things that happened with me, I always questioned a lot of things in the Bible, and I didn't quite understand why we weren't attaining the spirituality part of our belief. And it's because we were not being taught the correct stuff to do that on purpose, because that would have given us the power. Because, like they say, when we leave as a nation, the wealth goes with us. That's why Marcus Garvey got kicked out when he started talking about leaving. What really got Malcolm X killed was he kept saying the black people need to leave and get the powder keg out of America. Look, the powers that be know, well, that's our money. That's our blessing. These people go home, we're broke. It goes to a whole, and you won't even be able to explain it. And see, one of the things that I noticed that was happening, and this is the reality of how things go. So goes the way we're treated as a nation by other nations, goes what the retaliation comes with. So one of the things that happened with America is the way the Congo and where the Bantus are being treated reflected on the response to the other nations of how things would happen on their end. So earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, um, um, financial problems, farmers, everything like that. Now, see, the Masons will come and think, well, we controlled all of that. But what they don't understand is they work for the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Okay, and that's why, when Bush said as the angel rides in the whirlwind, even the Ashkenazis, I'm not the Anakim and the Nephilim that you hear about, they know that they still have to do what the Most High tells them. Okay, so they can't, you know. So one of the things that happened, let me get to my thought here. Sorry, had to get off track. We went through a lot of hardship starting in the 1900s to now because they didn't want the Bantu people to know that the Messiah was coming incognito to help us get free. And that is why they went after Simeon Toko so hard, because he was demonstrating the abilities that made him a Christ, a black Jesus. Okay. Um, for a man who was cut up and killed and then came back to life, there's not even Nimrod could do that. When Esau cut his head off, not even Tammuz could do that when the pig killed him. Ishtar, their mother, they couldn't get, that kind of stuff to happen. And that is one of the things even Eliah said. Eliah, is Elijah. He said in a book called The Apocalypse that the false Messiah can do everything that the real Messiah can do except one. And that is why when they had the scripture about the Acts of Peter and Paul, Kepha and Saul, he tried to resurrect the dead by using an animal, because animals don't have souls, so they can resurrect an animal. But a person, doesn't have a soul. Even if you're using a person with a surrogate soul, I mean, you can't make that surrogate soul return, because the Most High is not gonna let you. That's why they make so many copycats, so that when they want to mess with your head, they bring out people, oh, that soul look like so and so, because there are certain patterns that do look alike because of what they did. Okay, that's why they take people's blood. The people don't even know it goes underground, and they do a lot of stuff with people's blood. You're gonna be shot when the veil come off. But one of the things that I showed my wife, the medical doctor symbol is the name of the Egyptian god Toth, that was also called Nargal for the Anakim, and he was the stork. And if you remember, I made this revelation that the stork brings babies. Well, that's what he was doing in Atlantis. Was he's cooking up all kind of. He taught, he used what they call a tablet of destiny, which is what the fallen angels in the Book of Enoch used to change the creation that made the Most High mad. Like, what are y'all doing? You change it. You're mixing up. That's where you really get your dinosaurs from. All these other creatures that were mixed in. That's why when you look at the brachiosaur and you're like, why it got feet like an elephant, but it got a neck like a snake. The body's a snake, but it's all like an elephant looking. When they did the replicant of it, it's like, well, that's because they took reptile and mixed it with a mammal, an elephant, gave it the feet, but and unfortunately they told you that in the movie Jurassic Park when they said, oh, we took these animals and we put them together. Well, that's what they were doing on Atlantis. That's what they were doing before the days of Noah. They were taking, fallen angels were taking creatures and making them. And see, that's the one thing I always kept saying. I was like, they come up with the stupidest stuff, because evolution, when I learned about the guy that did evolution, that he worshipped the false Messiah, and they come up with these things like, oh, the wolf came, all dogs came from a wolf. But wait a minute. How you see the little dachshund running around? I was like, I don't understand. How did the wolf change into that? You see the poodle. How did a wolf change into that? Because what they hiding is they've known how to manipulate the genetic thing with these fallen angels for a long time, but they can't tell you that, because you'd be like, where you get how you get the technology to do that? How you do that? And that's how they dumbing down people. See, they say, oh, well, we modified these breeds of dogs and we made it this with that and breeded that with that and this is how we got this. But see, they've been playing around with the Most High creation for a while now, and that is why it's like the days of Noah. Okay, so Tatanzambi, as you know, if you go to the correct spiritual being, you know that Jesus is black, God is black. There's actually talked about. Pastor Miller mentioned that there was an article on how the Pope John Paul II, when after he was shot, he went down to Africa in '89 and proclaimed it in French that God is black and Jesus was an African. Well, technically, he kind of revealed the third secret of Fatima to the people, but he didn't give it to the whole world and the other Bantu people. And this is why the big bombshell, and I'll get to the coronavirus here in a minute, this is why the world's been shut down. I know Pastor Miller made a comment because he had been to Arizona before and they were starting to catch wind of this man teaching this. Okay, and he wanted to come back and do it again. I remember he wanted to meet with Farrakhan. Now I know he said he wanted to meet with Farrakhan, but when I've seen pictures of Farrakhan's a high-level Mason. Okay, so he was already tipped off. Hey, this guy's coming to talk to you about this. You can't be no part of that. And I'm hoping that he'll finally wake up and realize that he needs to change his mind. But that's going to come to the point where he's going to be like Real Malcolm, where he has to say, "Oh, I'm gonna die anyway," because I know once he gets on board with this, they're gonna want to, do him like Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm. But like, no, you betrayed us. You can't do that. You can't say that. But at this point, when he'll probably jump on board is when the Pope says, "Yeah, he's black to the world. Yeah, God's black." And everybody's like, "What? Who are these people over?" That's what's going to happen. Okay. When they finally got to come clean and say, we had you. We suckered you. And it's going to cause a big. And that is why they had to get FEMA ready with this coronavirus thing because, I'm not trying to say, because it does coincide with the biblical plagues. I mean, because remember Las Vegas they had all the locusts flying around. Remember the firstborn of Egypt got killed by, we don't know what the angel did when he flew over to kill those firstborn people. But it's similar. And see, one of the reasons I saw that I was kind of curious as to why Trump defunded WHO is I know I saw a map that got released by the World Health Organization of the spread of the virus, and Africa had hardly any. And so that led to that would have led to questions at people who saw it like, what? How is it that Africa don't have any cases of the corona except for in the places there the Hamites were mostly at? The northern portion like Sudan, Egypt, Libya, but where the Bantus are, it's like, what? There ain't no cases down there, and so that would have been like, wait, what's going on with that? How come they don't have, let's say, and that's why, now they want to put the vaccine in Africa. And one of the things I've been learning is every time they want to do something, Congo is the place they use like to start with a lot of their tests. Now I know the reason for that is because Congo is the most highest people in Bakongo. All the Bantu people come from Bakongo, have connections. The Maasai language is Kikongo. I know, a lot of Hebrews are not Paleo-Hebrew. Well, there was no such thing as Hebrew named in the old times. There was no such word. It had affiliated with a name. That's why the people who taught One West and all these other groups happen to be Messianic Jews. They're not going to tell you what the real name of Paleo-Hebrew was called. Just like they don't teach it that way in any of the colleges, because then it's going to say, oh, well, Paleo is really called Bakongo or Congo. What? Wait, then that means that, yeah, exactly. The Bakongo people are the Hebrews. The Bantu, the Cholubas, they talk about Jesus or the Choluba. And so, and then it talks about, well, who was spread across the world. Now, one of the things I want to get into, and you're welcome. I have a picture of her. I'll show you. You shocked when I saw they have it. They actually put it right here in Pueblo, Colorado, where I'm at. And they had a statue of a Lakota woman. And when I saw her, she had the cape and blue borders that we like the Hebrews like to dress in, and the same star that's affiliated with the turquoise on all of her garment. Okay, and that's what I was like, wait a minute, you know. And that's why when I met I was listening to the Bantu lady who said Anoka was one of the words that's in the Lakota language. One of the things that many of the Bantu people, even the ones in Africa teaching this truth, don't understand is a lot of the Muskogee language has Bantu words in it. And I was shocked when I looked at some of it. I was like, that's why when I learned that in Hawaii they use Bantu words. In the Philippines they have Bantu words. In Asia and other places and this is even before the Europeans came. And this is why I've been trying to tell these brothers and everybody is like, look, the false Messiah knew where he was sending these Illuminati people, these Freemasons, because the ball's been around since the Tower of Babel. They know where. See, this is the thing that people don't understand. They know where all the descendants of Arpachshad broke off to. Let me get to the scripture, Genesis here, where it says, sorry, Genesis. Okay, I'll get into it. Genesis 11. I'm gonna talk about the one word, one speech. Okay, it says here, in Genesis 10, and this is the genealogy of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Yawan, Tubal, Meshke, and Tirach, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, the sons of Rethoth and Tagoma, and the sons of Yawan, Elisha, and Tarshish, and Kittim, and Dedanim. Okay, did you hear where Ashkenaz fits? And then it says the sons of Ham, Cush. They got a man in the White House who happens to be the name Cush Nur, which means of Cush. He may be white because I'm gonna tell you here in a minute there ain't no such thing really as white people. There's people who have their melanin removed and modified, and the Nation of Islam actually have a definition of the Yaqub, which is what we call Yaqubi. And one of the things it talks about, you can actually find this on Wikipedia. I was shocked that it's on there, but it talks about a man named Yaqub who was 6,600 years ago, who was a scientist who was supposed to be the father of the Hebrews. And this is why I feel like the Most High revealed something to me, that we interacted with these fallen angels to make some of these other races. Hence the reason we got a punishment. See, like I'm saying, every time we do something we don't like, that's one of the reasons. Besides getting selling Joseph into captivity, we get in trouble with the Most High. See, because we don't always follow what we should, and we go to these other mighty ones that we're not supposed to be interacting with. This is usually how we end up in a captivity, because it was more. You gotta understand that even though Jacob, I don't understand when I was listening to Johnny John, Yakuba's name is not really meant to be something of, because he grabbed his brother's heel, it's meant to be derogatory, calling him Yakubi. That it meant, thief or something. And, Esau, some of these names that they get are not always going to be on the good side. And, the problem is, unfortunately, because the Bantu history is not all in the Bible, we really don't know everything that Yakubi was doing, because a lot of that stuff was hidden that they took from us. And that's one of the things that's been revealed to that history has gone along with the Nation of Islam and Islam because they know have a lot of history that they don't reveal to other nations because they don't, like I said, Christian religion is all separated. And so what happens is they know Yakubi was a scientist. Okay, so this is why you say when they say they steal stuff from us, they steal a lot of stuff from the Bantu people. So it says in the sons of Cush of Ham, sons of Ham Cush, and they say Mitzrayim, but we know his in the that was a that's a Yiddish translation, and Egypt is Greek, so he knew his name was Kemet, which is why we called it Kamata when we were there. Okay, then we have put in Canaan. Now see, when we get down to let's see. Now the Canaanites, of course, we know, and see this the problem is we know there's a lot of Canaanites living in Africa, and they've actually, proven that. My sister went over there and she saw the Canaanites, and that's why people were saying, no, the land of Canaan is in Africa. So now we're going to go to Shem. So also the Shem, the father of the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder brought forth the sons of Shem, Eliam, and Aser, Arpachshad, and Lud, and Aram. Now, this is why I'm trying to tell y'all, you can't keep saying that every black person you run into is Hebrew. Okay? Remember, Arpachshad, if you look at your lineage of your scriptures, is where Yisolele or Yisakael or the Hebrews came from. Remember, you have Asher, Eliam, Lud, and Aram. Okay? They are brothers to Arpachshad. And their lineage did not, they may have bred into Arpachshad, some of them, their wives, but they're not the Banabetu, they're not the house, they're not Banabet, they're not Yisolele, they're not Yakubi. Okay? So when we were dispersed and scattered among the nations, okay, we ran into our relatives. Okay? Our brothers are the brothers of these people, the relatives, and they were not practicing. This is why you can always tell Bantus were different. But there were people that lived in the Americas, and I'm gonna get to what America is really named after here in a minute. There are people here in the Americas. Of course, they were Shemites, they were Hamites, but then when we were scattered, and of course, and this even happened in the Roman. This is why you see the markings of the Roman Empire that they found in New Mexico and others. And our writing is around the world on the walls. Our writings in the walls in Georgia. Okay, the Creek Indians know this. The Bantu writing is in the Philippines. I met a lady. She said, "Yeah, I've seen the writing." Okay, our writing is around there, but see, the archaeologists controlled by who, they don't tell you what they found, because if they reveal it back in those, that's why now it's starting to come out. Oh, we found this city, and we found that, and we found this, and we found that. Okay, because they're trying to discredit, but they're finding cities. You understand? Our ancestors built a lot of different societies. Like I said, I mentioned in the video before, there was a kingdom called Cahokia in this country. And the Cahokian, if you ever look at the history of Cahokia, the Native Americans that ran that thing looked totally different than the people that Custer fought, or the people that Colorado when the Wounded Knee and they look a lot more like the Blackfeet. They shave the side of their head and they put the piercings. But there are those who They did not, they did not do these different things. They were actually, like they said, I was listening to a guy that said when he discovered some teachings in the Comanche or whatever, and they kept saying "ya ya." Okay, I've met black people who can carry the tribal card that look as dark as we do, and I remember a guy said, "Yeah, our ancestors kept the Sabbath. We know that," and I was like, "Really?" And see, that's the thing about it is, I was an American history teacher, okay, and I studied history in college, and one of the things I came across was a book called The Indian Laws. I think I mentioned this before. And if you ever read that, it's like, man, that's as bad as Jim Crow. What they were doing to him. Okay, so um, I know there were Bantu. There's a book called. They said no, I just found it. Yeah, I know there's a book called the American History of the Bantus that Issachar talked about, but there's another book called 2 Million Years Ago, and I want to get into that book when I can because it says that that book breaks down the whole entire Bantu migration, that they put it in a book where it shows this biblical connection. And in that book, it actually says the Bantus were in every continent, scattered, um, building the other nations. Like the Mayans and the Aztec and all these other. You have to understand, in every society, yeah, they've always put their own people at the bottom that are weaker, but they're not the sole slaves. That's why, if you ever heard the controversy when they did the movie with Mel Gibson, he made the movie Apocalypto, and there was a group of Native Americans that got livid with the way he depicted the tribe that was taken as a slave, because they were like, we did not look like that. That we didn't have all the piercings and the stuff in our noses and everything like that. And that kind of sent up a red flag, like, whoa, wait a second. Wait a minute, those are Semites. Those aren't Hamites. And the fact that they didn't put the piercings and stuff makes you kind of wonder, oh, well, could they have been the Bantu that got scattered? You know? And so the thing about it is, um, you know, my dad mentioned, because they're from the Caribbean, and the Caribs, or one of the groups of Indians, they said that um, did not fit the stereotype of other tribes, that they were cannibals, or they were like cannibalistic, or worshiping multiple gods. And he said that they lied about quite a bit of what color they were, that they were dark skinned people, but they were not. And see, even the Moors, and that's what I was going to say, with America, the Moors have covered up a lot of things for the Masons, so that you don't know a lot of the history. And I know some of the, and unfortunately, some of the Moors are Bantus that converted to Islam, and they're in our history that knew Bantu history. And so whenever they encountered it, they knew how to cover it up. To say, oh no, we're the real Hebrews. And the Moors, that's why some Moors will say, well, yeah, we're the real Hebrews. And then I'm going to get into what happened. The scripture, I think it's in Luke. I'm going to get into where America is named after. This is the big lie. And I mentioned this earlier, that we're actually, in the Most High gave this revelation to me, and it's thanks to the connection with the Simeon Toko connection. I don't think Pastor Mel is aware that his spirituality is starting to warp off on my revelations, because I'm starting to get the whole spiritual context of both sides of the Atlantic, where what they really covered up over here about our people. And there's a reason why The Moors controlled this country, but they didn't want the Bantus to know that because they were black, and so that is why they erased much of the 1700s and 1800s history to read falsely. Because I know that one person actually said the Civil War was fought because the North wanted to have the same. They said the South, it was about slavery, but the slavery was pretty much over before this war even started because of of what had happened with the barricade of the cotton, and that technically the slaves were really running the plantation because the masters, they didn't even need, they had been controlled so much by that time that they didn't even realize that they were actually slaves. Because that's why that movie 12 Years a Slave kind of put that in perspective. Because once they put Willie Lynch's program into place about how to make a slave, it didn't take them long to get us conditioned. And one of the movies that I watched that actually put this into perspective was the Django Unchained. And if you remember from that movie, especially when he went down to Candyland, the slaves were pretty much, I mean, they weren't fenced in as much. They killed the guy if you ran away, they killed you with the dog. But it was like most of us were acting like Samuel L. Jackson, where it's like, man, what you doing here, boss? He finishing every other word he's saying, and he was running the show. He keep the people in line in the kitchen, and that's why the Uncle Tom side was coming into play, because we were already converting into a lot of the white side, kind of like what happened with the Book of Maccabees when we hooked up with the Greeks, and what we did with the Romans in that book. We started, kind of like what happened when we were in, Babylon after the fall of when Nebuchadnezzar came and got us. When only Daniel and the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego wouldn't bow down, but everybody else would. So essentially what they have done to us mentally, it comes from their interaction with the false Messiah's mother. So she, being a spiritual being herself, has been able to program us through them, to where once they had us locked into celebrating Easter, especially, and they had us locked into celebrating Christmas, and the things they were doing, then at that point we were under the spell. We were tied in, and they started manipulating us based off of that. So, these fallen beings, they can really get you locked in. Once you sign the contract, we signed the contract. They said we used to put an X, and that's why the Most High has to break this contract, and that's the way to get us out of here. And I know that Simeon Toko is probably, like he said, he's working on. Pastor Mel said they're working on getting a safe passage back, and he even mentioned that you can't just make people leave. And that's why the Most High said, well, yeah, that's why his intentions at this point is to create. He's going to destroy the captivity so that you won't want to stay here. He's gonna be doing. That's why one of the things I say that's why now FEMA's secretly running the government, because they're getting ready to start making people take the mark. Because once the truth comes out about the third secret of Fatima, and the truth comes out about who the Bantu people are, they're going to have to lock everybody else up, knock them down, because it's going to be like, oh, then they don't want it to be like in Egypt and Kamata, where, remember when Pharaoh said go? Well, some of the Egyptians went with us, like, go, but we out. We know y'all lying to us too. We know that you're not the God. And see, this is why Nimrod got a lot of people down to say, oh no, when the Bantu's leaving, I'm trying to keep as many of these people under me, even though they're going to kill as many as they can because of the 2/3 of the scripture talks about. But anyway, let me get into this. So Luke, I believe it's when Philip, or it could be it could be the book of Acts. I'm sorry. Let's see. My apologies. I'm trying to remember when he baptized the Ethiopian. I know Pastor Mel, if anybody sees it, I'm like, yeah, you gotta really study your scriptures more, and I'm doing my best. I think it's. My apologies. Let me review. Because when he baptized the Ethiopian, he said that I am going to take the word of the Most High everywhere and teach it all I can. And this is where you're going to find out why the Ethiopians say they're the real Hebrews, and how that transpired into. Hold on 1 second. I think y'all should know what I'm talking about, but just in case for those that don't, because I want to teach the people that that look at this the right way. So he baptized the okay, so it's Acts 8:26-40. And I was right on track. I was on track with Acts. So here's what happened. So he he baptized the eunuch, and it says, let's see here, and was returning and sitting in his chariot. He was heading the Nabi Yesiyahu and the Moanda, as I now know Master Miller called it, or the Ruah, said to Philippos, go near and join him at the chariot. And running up, Philippos heard him reading the Nabi Yesiyahu, or Isaiah, and said, do you know what you are reading? And he said, I am able unless someone guides me. And he called Philippus near to come and sit with him. And the passage of the scripture that he was reading was he was led as a sheep to the slaughter, and like a lamb silent before his shears, so he opened not his mouth. So this is where he was reading about the part of the crucifixion of Yesu, or Yesiah. And in his mutilation he was deprived in right ruling, he shall declare his generation, because Umbomi, or life, was taken from the earth. And the eunuch answered Philip, said, I ask you, about whom does this Nabi say this, about himself or about some other? And this is when Philip teaches him about the Messiah, right? So when he immersed him, he said, I believe your heart. And he said, he vanished, of course. And they went, and he said that he's going to preach this throughout all of his land. So the language at this time, because remember, he's reading. Okay, so this is where the lie is really big about our country. Okay, the Ethiopians were speaking were reading the same language as the Bantu people. They had to be, in order for him to read about Isaiah or Isaiah's, or let's say Yeshayahu in here, his readings. Okay, so excuse me. So if you pay close attention, the language that they speak in Ethiopia is called Aramaic. Amharic. Let's see, Amharic. It's Amharic. That's how they pronounce it. I met a guy from Ethiopia, and that's what he called it. He says, yeah, it's like the ancient Hebrews language. Well, the ancient Hebrews language they refer to as Aramaic. If you've ever watched the Johnny John video, is what they call, what the Kosa and the Bakongo people, the Bantus were speaking. They call it Assyrian, but that's a lie. because one of those things that they're trying to do, once again, is hide the truth. Who are the Bakongo people? Who are the Bantus? Who are these people that come from, who is Yisolele? And this is one, that they've been proven DNA wise are the people. So, Amharic, and now the biggest lie about America is that it was named after Amerigo Vespucci. This is something that has been historically refuted, and this is why the more stuff is starting to come out. And I even spoke with one who said we named these continents. Okay, we gave them the name America. Now I want you to stop and think. Most Moors, if you recall the history of them, come from this eunuch who was baptized, who learned the truth. That's why they call themselves the Jews. This is why you'll find a lot of Moors who even converted to Islam after it started. They say, well, we were the real Jews. And you'll find a lot of Ethiopians that will say the same thing. We're the real. No, you were converted from the eunuch. We're Banabetu, the Bakongo. That's why even if you look at the way they speak in Sudan and Ethiopia and all these other countries, they don't have the same African uh, they don't even have the same African accent like you find with people who come from the Caribbean, who are similar to the Bantu people in Africa. I used to always listen to Mandela, and boy, he sounded like my grandfather, who's from St. Island of St. John, when he used to run it. When he used to stand up there and talk to the people, and this is the Caribbean, and you're gonna, this is when he used to do his speeches, and he sounded like Mandela, at the time when he was in charge of the island of St. John. So I was like, when I speak, this man's from Ethiopia. If you listen, I'm like, you don't have the accent like the Bantus. So Aramic, as they call it, is a modified version of Kikongo, as Pastor Mello has discussed. It's a modified what they called Aramaic by the Khazars when they discovered it, when they stole it from the Bantu people. Then they attached the Syrian part so they wouldn't know that they got it from the Kosa, or the Johnny John said they got it from Congo. They changed it and said, oh no, he was speaking Assyrian Aramaic, so they wouldn't know that Yesiah was from Congo. And so this is how the biggest deception goes. And so Aramic is what a lot of the Moors were speaking. So this is gonna blow you away, because the Most High pointed me, put an A on the end, because they knew about the Ah. They said the Ah, the highest being in the Paleo Hebrew, the Ah. Amaraka. Amaraka. Okay. So if you put Amaraka, now you see where the United States and South America carry the Bantu that they call Aramaic, the Amharic language. Because if you know the history of Africa, nearly the whole continent was called Ethiopia when the Moors were in Europe. Okay, there was an Ethiopian ocean. There was an Ethiopian connection. There was a lot of Ethiopian, that's why it says in the scriptures, beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Okay, where you find the people. Well, the rivers of Ethiopia used to be almost all around Congo. If there's a map, you can even find it on Google. I wish I could bring it up, because I don't like to do things like I told you. I don't like to do things on YouTube where I show pictures, because I don't like to get strikes. But there's a map that says Ethiopia Yeah, it's a 500-year-old. I've seen it. It said, the whole continent, which we now know as Azania, which is comes from. I just had it the other day. Jeremiah 10, Jeremiah Obadiah, Azaniah was in there, and the thing that we don't understand is this is how the devil deceives the whole world. So what he did, and this is going to really shock a lot of people, especially Christians, because they don't want to think that their pastors are, because they're being taught what they learn in the school. And I remember Jonathan Chilombo talked about that. Yanata, he said that a lot of these people don't understand them. Like Oral Roberts and all these other places are connected to the Vatican. You know, because now if you actually, this is what the things they never told you. All of the Protestant churches, and this is I even at one point I used to be a part of a Seventh Day Adventist, and now I'm running some truths about, even though they think they're not deceived, they are. Um, that they half of them went back to Rome. That's why they now some of them are back on Sunday. They're doing the Sunday worship, and there was a big argument. They split over how they were going to dress like the old days. Because I remember the preacher saying he was so upset because they want to go back to the way they looked in the old times. And he said, "Well, you look like the slave masters when you do that, because there's a lot of there's a lot of Bantu people in the Seventh Day Adventist Church, and it's sad because they don't even know that Yesaya, and this is one of the things. This is what I'm gonna get into here in this portion is that to hide Simon Toko, to hide the revelation of Fatima, the secret. This is where, especially in the United States, you're going to start getting breakouts of a huge religious influx, especially in the Americas, because they didn't want these people to know he was here. So this is where you start getting the evangelical movement started to happen, and they got the Baptists had a big push, and Catholicism, they made a stamp and said we have the right to change laws, and this in the 1920s, and then also you had a rise in, this is when you get One West. The Hebrew Israelites started off, and you had this is when, if you remember, a lot of racism war started. Okay, well, this coincides where it says the dragon is chasing the woman's offspring. So with all the things that happened to Simon Toko, when you look at, he went through all kind of ridicule, even after he called down angels and he kicked the King Leopold out of Leopoldville in Angola. He pushed the Portuguese out, and they all this time they tried to kill him, and he came back. But what people didn't understand was they didn't want the American black people to know, hey, there's a man over in Africa that's black that's doing things like Jesus. So this is why they started the brainwashing of keeping us occupied with race war. And this was actually done, if you actually do the history, the NAACP and the Klan were both formed by Rothschild. So Rothschild, and I don't know if Pastor Noah even knows this, Rothschild, their family are reptilians. They look like people, but they're reptilians. I'm gonna say that. That's why I said I hope this video gets played, because they control. They control FEMA. They control because FEMA right now is in control of everything, and I'll tell you how that is right now. Trump is just a figurehead, and they already knew this was gonna happen because he's a high-level Mason. But the reason why this stuff is happening today, or why it happened, why black people are so in denial of who they are. Because even my mom was like, because she was in the Caribbean, they raised, I didn't even know. She said, I was raised that Jesus was black. And I said, well, that's part of our problem is because those of us that knew it, we didn't understand. Well, that means we're the Hebrews. But see, the problem is they had cut off that connection to the Bantu people through slavery. You know, that, oh, well, what are those people called? Bakongo. And then they mocked him as King Kong in the movies. And people didn't even know why they made this movie about a giant gorilla. And then the Planet of the Apes showed up in the 1960s. And why are they making Planet about talking apes? And they made it sound like, oh, we did these scientific modifications to make an ape talk. So, excuse me, one of the things that happened um, in a lot of ways to us is they attached. Now remember, because the United States has the symbolism of Babylon, that means the balls run this country. Okay? The same thing with Europe and other places, the balls run the show. Those are the Anakin. So that's why you get these people talking about, oh man, George Bush, he morphed into a reptile. And it's like, nah, he didn't do that. Or you see all these, the military, they say, oh, they doing business with the reptile, with the Anakin, the reptilians. No, that's a lie. That's a conspiracy. Because they don't want you to know that the Christianity and all these other religions are infiltrated. And that's why they came after Simon Toko, because he was being attacked by these balls. They're like, no, this can't be where did he come from and how did he come back and and we can't let them know this because we'll lose our control. Well, that's what they don't want, and that's why the Most High says in Revelation 17, I don't know if I told Pastor Miller this. I hope he watches this. I'm gonna tell him about it. That's why the whore came to me in a vision saying she wanted me to go to the Most High on her behalf because she know they get. That's why I knew when coronavirus hit back in August is when I had this thing, and then the Most High gave me a vision. I talked about the thief was coming, and this is what I'm trying to tell with Pastor Mel. I said I think that this was all coming from the Messiah that they said he was already here. It's 3 years ago is when he said follow directions, and I started coming out of really starting to fast and pray and come out of this. And people thought I was crazy and not celebrating Christmas no more and Easter the way I was doing it. Because I always knew, I said, something don't. I said, why did we change I always ask, why did we ever change the name? Who did that? I'm like, well, who? Because they say, oh, Constantine. Well, what is Constantine when it comes to, where did this come from? I said, because the real Messiah, and, I said, and his followers never changed the name in 300 years. So why all of a sudden, and that's why I had to know if he's the book of Daniel, change times and seasons, and then on the same time they changed the image of the cross, and and all that. And I wasn't sure if Pastor I was going to see because I know he said he communicates with Simon Toko if it was valid. When Hollywood made that Planet of the Apes, the last one, they put Caesar on an X to simulate the and when of course they had the apes blowing the shofar and everything, that they put him on they put all the disciples on X's and not like the regular T, which I know that cross is supposed to stand for the false Messiah. And so I wasn't sure about that, but anyway, one of the things that's happening to us as a generation, and this is why we're waking up, is the grip and the exposure to the knowledge is what's lifting off this veil. People don't even realize that our power is lifting off this veil because we have that power. That's why the more people realize that we're living in a matrix or deception, it lifts off the veil to where people are going to finally see what? You know, and that's why, that power comes from the Bantu people to finally say, oh, the more every day one of the Bantu people starts to realize we're the Hebrews, that veil starts to pull off. That delusion starts to lift off, because then you realize, oh, I was worshiping the devil. Isaiah 14:14. I was pretend that was the devil doing that. And so that's where, as the more and more people start to realize it, this is why they're losing that, and that's why this is why they did what Trump did. Because one of the things I wanted to tie into this is when he declared the martial law. Okay, it was on Friday the 13th. Now, if you know the significance of that day, that's supposed to be when the Knights Templar were burned at the stake by the Pope, which is a big deal to the Mason and the Knights of Columbus and all that. And one of the things that people don't know, because there's a lot of executive orders that, see, the one thing about America is there's been a lot of executive orders that unless you read it, he'll hold it up and say, yeah, I signed this, but you don't really know what it means when he says I signed an executive order. And over the last 50 years, as they came to formulating the agency now currently known as FEMA, this agency has a lot of powers that have been granted to it over the years secretly through these executive orders. And one of them is to control the distribution of wealth, okay, to control the Food and Drug Administration, and actually suspend the Constitution. So when you want to see the B system coming into play, who's going to be handing out the marks? Okay, you've heard about, and of course they dispel all the rumors. Oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, but it's in the executive orders. But they act like, and just like the one I read about the military, and they're like, well, yeah, we can deploy the military. So that means, and there's another one that says that they can move an entire, um, they have the authority to move an entire community and relocate you, especially in the event of natural disaster. So you see what's happening in the South right now. A lot of these tornadoes are ripping through the South. And of course, this, like, I know, I'm pretty sure if Simon Toka can back this, but this is a lot of the things that's happening to America because of the way they treat the Bantu people. This is why he said to come out of the harlot, because then you don't experience these things. Just like when I'm not afraid of the coronavirus, because I know who the real Messiah is, and I know who the real Hebrews are, and I know the lamb that marks the post that went over in Passover is the Messiah that came, the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so I understand this truth. But a lot of people are panicking that don't realize that you're supposed to be in that same boat. This is the Passover. When the falsely pestilence hitting, you're supposed to be protected because you got the Messiah. I had to tell my mom that, and even when she said she knew Jesus was black, I said, well, Mom, that right there should tell you. You have the Lamb. And the Lamb is the Messiah. He takes care of that. So, and someone took a demonstrate when he could heal, and Simon Kombango and that came before him and manifested that power of healing. They walked around, and I'm pretty sure Simon Toka walked around people who were filled with a lot of disease, and he didn't. I mean, yeah, he was marred by. He was the devil tried to kill him with the smallpox, but he's as a baby to overcome smallpox. That's almost near impossible. That he should have survived that, and that's the proof. And then to be able to get cut into pieces and come back and get run over by a tractor and come back and then to get almost thrown out of an airplane and he stopped the plane. And I mean, you can't name a person in America, to my knowledge, that unless we hit him, that could ever come close to that. I mean, Yeah, the false Messiah can probably do some of those things that are similar, because I know he's been doing it for a while. That's why you can't see it. You know, the way they introduced you to him and his powers was of course the Superman stuff and the X Men. You know, X Men was part of us, but then they incorporated him into the X Men as the one angel with the wings that flew, the boy whose father was he wanted him dead, and then he wanted his wings cut off, but that was supposed to represent Gadriel, Lucifer, in that X Men. And then um what do you call it, that one called Brightburn. That's supposed to be the real um that is supposed to be the real power of the false Messiah as the wicked version of Superman. Okay, so what is happening now in our society is going to be the fact that the Bantu Messiah is already here. Oh, he came in incognito, and he'll come in glory, like he says, when the people are returned home, so that everyone can see. Oh, wait, what? We worshiping the wrong guy, and that's why Pastor Noah was pointing out that that's why there's been a misinterpretation, because our scriptures are so twisted by those who are trying to control the us mentally, because that's why a lot of times you'll say, people, I don't understand what the scripture means. Well, you gotta take it when it becomes clear, when you're talking it from especially black people's point of view, or Bantu especially. Oh yeah, this is exactly how we are. You see it right off the bat. Oh man, that's how them brothers used to act down the street, man. I know what he's talking about now, because these people knuckleheads. We used to act stupid, and these people are not acting right. And so you see a lot of this happening today among our people, and that's why they got us. And see, one of the way the dragon. So when you look at street gangs, drug dealers, pimps and hoes, the rap industry, the music industry as a whole, um, the prosperity pastors, the gospel music that's being used to compete instead of worship. And this is why I'm trying to tell you about the Most High was part of shutting down a lot of this stuff, because that's why, like Pastor Mel mentioned about Ezekiel 34, that he's pulling the sheep away, that this is part of it. And then the other part was I want to call it oh, the concept now of black wealth, where they're trying to make it to where they put, you not saying there's anything wrong with this, but they put you in these positions where you have power and status and esteem, and you feel like you've arrived because black people are now on a certain level. Well, then you don't see Simon Toko or other, or people who are trying to point out the most highest thing is like, this ain't what your life is supposed to be about. And that's why he, at this point, like I remember, I think I remember, Brother Issachar, the y'all Dwayne, and Mama Nicole's, as John like to say, they said that he's going to destroy the captivity, and that's exactly the visions that I have seen. He's completed a lot of my visions now, where I have seen the toppling of the buildings, and this is where the Masons who use Hollywood to tell you what's coming is the San Andreas, the 2012, and then of course Africa wasn't touched, right? So that was the key. I was like I saw, I was like, why did they put that in the movie that Africa wasn't out? And then of course what was the other movie? Um, Deep Impact, and knowing and then the play on words when Nicolas Cage says the sun is the is the danger, and he's thinking SUN, and he really talking about SON. Okay, when they mock the angels of the white people taking the kid and everything, going to a new planet. It could twist everything up in the belief. And then the movie Book of Eli, where he said, yeah, the sun came down and he busted through the sky and he burnt, and the sun came down and burned everything. And that right there should have been, wait a minute, the sun came and broke through the sky? That's not the S-U-N, because it's the S-O-N, because the sun is right there. How did it break through the sky? If it's just, how did that happen, So I kind of gave it away. And so what I'm trying to point out here in our scriptures, as we know this is a very Black history book, is, and I've actually, this here's the thing that really bothers me the most. In our country, in America, of course there are those who have to maintain the image of who really supposed to, what God represents or whatever, and those are high level, people who are still manipulated. But then you run into the ones that say, yeah, we know he was black. And these are white people saying it. Yeah, we know. I was talking to a lady that I work at Amazon, and she said, I've come across a lot of white people that say they worship us in secret. And she's talking, and I know she's talking about secret society people, because this is what they do. Okay? This is what they do. They worship black beings to get the blessings. Like it says in scripture, I bless those I bless, their curses and curse you. So they think, as long as they have us here, and see, that is why the knowledge of a person like Simon Toko would have been a harmful thing to these European nations, and America especially, because we come home, the wealth, it's like Hosea said, the money come with us. Okay? That's why they wanted Marcus Garvey. That's why they made a point. When somebody like Simon Toko shows up, you can't let these other people know, because when they come back to Africa, all the wealth they stole from Congo, which they now know they stole from, they stole from Congo, comes back home. So the whole point, the reason why Pastor Miller was saying the revelation of a person like Simon Toko is going to really change the whole world, is because now they're going to know where the money came from. Now they're going to really know what the wealth came from. And the part that's going to really flip people out is when they found out that it was the Moors that helped them. And that's the big kicker right there, because Columbus and them got the maps to come over here from the Moors. And that this country was, and then that's the even bigger kicker, is that America is named after our language, from Amarak, where they put the "a" on the end, because the Moors named it. But they couldn't let the Bantu people know that black people had already named these continents, because they didn't want them to realize, hey, wait a minute, how can God be white? You see? Then how can Jesus be white? Because the Moors, they played a role in a lot of this brainwashing part. That's why, I don't know, many Bantus don't even know this, but the first president of the United States was a black man. They changed his image so that you wouldn't know, but if you look up now on Google, the first, he was a Moor. That's how you know, and it actually was 3 or 4 of them in a row. Before, Washington was number 9 or 8, because they didn't have but 1 or 2 years of terms before the Congress was set up. And this is how they really played with our heads. Because just to prove my point, a buddy of mine, that I was teaching him about the truth about the Hebrews being black, and we got into the conversation about the Moors. He says, that explains why that one day I saw the cops driving, and this guy put his flag out the window, and all the cops backed off. Then he's like, I've never seen in Memphis where a black man don't get harassed by the cops, ever. And because he became what they call a nobleman, he put his flag out the window, because that's a secret society. That's why they teach The scientific stuff, they say the melanin was 666 is really the melanin and all that, and they talk about, Pastor Mel said no, 999 is the savior, the upside down, and um, this is why, and this is the main thing I'm gonna put out there, and I know we'll see what YouTube says about this, but 9/11 as the Most High, I don't know if Simon Toker's gonna reveal this to Pastor Mello himself, but 9/11 was the warning of the coming of the return of the Banabetu to Yisolele, because all the things that had been done to the Bakongo people through the Americas was coming home. And even though people will say, "Oh, the Masons were involved with it," but they worked for the one. They worked for the angel, the pale horse rider, or the two, the one that. Here, let me get into it. Okay, so this is the big deal. Okay, so it says here, and let's see, and the lamb and the horse opened. I don't know if Simon Toku is going to reveal this to Pastor Miller at all, because this is something the Most High revealed to me, where it says that these horses. So the one with the crown is obviously one of the, the good angels. Okay, that he got a crown and the white horse. However, when you get to the fiery horse, it says another horse, the fiery red, went out and he sat on to take peace from the earth. Okay, to take peace from the earth is dealing with one of the fallen angels. Okay, because that's when you look at the most I've read the scripture. I could be wrong if I misinterpreted it, but the angels that go out to do damage are the ones that are under the command of the ones that are actually ruling over them, like the archangels. Okay, because I know it's in the book of Bartholomew that I read this, that when the devil was telling his secrets to Bartholomew, he says, yeah, the one that stands there can't. He had to shut up and he had to say certain things because he was revealing how the weather is controlled by the fallen angels, but the Most High angels monitor them. And then he was saying how the a lot of the damage that's done to humankind is sent to, the Most High Order tells the devil what to do still, like you said in Job. So the horse, let's see, it says the pale horse or the black one with the scales, that's another, like the fallen, like the reaper. And this is the one that's messing around with the stock market. That's how the wealth is coming around and up and down and all this stuff that's going on, hurting people's money. And then of course the Messiah, he opened the pale horse. Now the pale horse, it says here, he said on it, he said in the name was death. The only angel, and this is why I kind of get upset with, because the Messianic Jews say that the angel that went over Egypt to take the firstborn was Gabriel. Okay. However, and I'm sure Pastor Mello and all these other people know that the job of Gabriel is a different. And I've read scriptures where it says his position is different than to do that. And remember that it says there's an angel that the devil will take he takes he pretends to be an angel of light. So I know in the book of Enoch it says the angel that deceived Eve was Gadriel. Okay, so he takes, whenever he goes to the nations and says, I am, Gabriel, when Gabriel is the one that, like, he went to Muhammad, I know he went to Constantine, He went to the Methodist people that his brother said he saw the angel. The what's her name for the Mormons? You know, they saw the angel that brought the tablets. Okay, what's his name? What's her name? The Seventh Day Adventists. Okay, this is why I know people at Seventh Day Adventists and they're gonna get a little upset about this, but no, it was Gadriel saying he was Gabriel. Okay, and so this angel, because we know the only angel that is is death, okay, is the one we know that the Messiah said in the scriptures that is the devil. He's death. Because if you believe in him, you become dead like he is. You become dead, you know, and so the Masons work for this angel. That's why when Trump said um what's his name, they had that thing called iPet goat whatever, and they had the presidents were being controlled by the little dancing things like puppets, and they showed the long reptilian fingernails and all that. And Trump said the angel that rides in the whirlwind. Okay. Well, if you look at his role, it says, "He who sat on his name was death, and the grave followed him." Now remember, in other versions it says Hades. Well, Hades we know, if I remember from the book of Bartholomew, Hades was one of the demons in hell. Okay. Um, and he sat on it and came and the grave followed him. Well, the grave, even when we talk about the grave, the world being a grave, because the dry bones, and why they mock us because we call us the zombie because our father is Tatan Zombie. And I remember Malcolm X actually said this in his speech that we're walking zombies because we don't know we're dead to knowledge of ourselves, dead to the knowledge of our people. So, and it says here, the authority is given to him. So the Messiah, this is what I'm trying to tell people about why this world is jacked up, because the Most High said he turned the world over to the hand of the wicked. Well, who's the top dog of the wicked? Right here. So it says, and authority was given him to kill a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword. So who does all the wars? Who are they sacrificing to? They even put Hitler even put his when they said the altar that's in the first beginning of Revelation that the Messiah said the place where Satan dwells on the altar of Pergamon. And Hitler brought the altar of Pergamon to Germany, and that's when they were slaughtering, their own the Ashkenazis were getting slaughtered on the altar. Well, who they slaughtering to these demonic beings, man? I mean, that's how they get their blood. That's how they get their power. Hitler gets his power from worshiping demons, man. I mean, that's the way they do it. So it says, and with death and with beasts and the earth. Okay, so when you go to shoot somebody and kill somebody, this is this angel. So who are you listening to? And this is who when these Masons, they get their power and they run around and they start talking about we have the knowledge, and we're the enlightened beings and the light of Lucifer. They talk about him. Well, this is who they're working for. So whenever he get the command to go out and to do something, that he gets the authority. Like, meanwhile, I'm gonna do this earthquake. I'm gonna do this kill. I'm gonna do this flood, and I'm gonna do all this stuff he's doing. Right? I'm gonna let these animals run loose and tear people up. This angel. This is his authority. This is who they work for. So when you look at the way things are happening in the United States, with because if you learn the history of Tom Cruise even told you how the drugs war got started. We know that the target. Why is it that every time there's a epidemic of some kind in America, who are they always targeting? And this is even in the FEMA rules. In the FEMA rules, whenever there's a crisis, they target Hispanics and blacks, and that's why when Trump declared a national emergency on our border, that's why he started rounding up the Mexican people, because that's the first people that, I mean, it's called Rex, they have it called Rex 84, or King Alfred is one of the plans that they call it. And see, this is the thing, we as a people don't see, we're targeted for a reason. That's why when they made Planned Parenthood, they went to the black preachers to say, oh, you really need to, need to work on not breeding so much. And they used to mock us saying we breed like rabbits. Well, because the point was, just like in the days of Egypt, what did the Pharaoh say? There's actually a drawing. I talked about this before, where you see the babies being fed to the alligators. Well, where do you see it? Well, what story matches that? Masa, Moses, they were feeding the kids to the crocodiles, and his mother said, "Oh no, I'm gonna put him in the basket. He's gonna be in the Pharaoh house." Okay, and so a lot of these poisons and things like the syphilis test and all these other things that they did to us is like the crocodile, or like the way, or is like a. So now they know because of the changes of people's attitude. A lot of the do-gooders who said, no, you can't do that to black people. You can't keep doing that. Well, of course, you can't put black babies in the mouths of alligators anymore. So they got to get crafty. They got to say, okay, well, how we going to kill them now? How we going to do this? And that's what they're doing. That's what they did. They came up with all these ways to target, because it's the Pharaoh doing his thing. And most I try to say, let my people go, and he coming back with some kind of craziness. Oh no, we can let them go, so we're gonna put drugs in the hood, and we're gonna do all this stuff. We're gonna make them superstars, rap moguls. So I didn't get too loud, but anyway, so that's kind of where we are. We're at a time when people are hold on a sec. 1 second, I'll be right back. Yeah, okay, salama CNE, matondo for the time. So, this is the revelation of my life where, my wife, the Most High, has been walking me through this journey. And of course, I had to go through different stages. And even there was a time when my angel actually manifested and was upset because I stopped. Because I didn't know how to keep telling people that, our government wasn't telling them the truth, and I wasn't doing it right. Because I can tell you, I know, because even when I wrote my book, there's some that I know. That's why I know the devil didn't want that one to come out, because it was going to show the I didn't know at the time the Masons had such a hold on the United States that it showed the world the United States conquered in that book, and it showed the religions being exposed in that book. So essentially, one of the things we need to understand with these scriptures, like Pastor Muller was saying, is you gotta come from the Bantu perspective, because it's our book, and of course, I was listening to Jonathan Cholombo when he gets mocked by the Hebrew Israelites saying, oh, Africa is nothing but Hamites. And I said, well, have they forgotten? And this is the thing that always gets me. I'm like, this is where I can tell that there's a brainwashing effect happening, even as an awakening, is all you got to do is go in the scriptures, and it shows you that every captivity we've ever been in was on the Hamite side. So the Hamites were, of course, even like what's happening in America, they were banging the Bantus. They were mixing their blood in there. They were raping the women. They were doing whatever they wanted to them. And so we got a lot of Hamite blood in us. And of course, in this version, we got a lot of more Japheth. And unfortunately, uh, and this I'm not gonna say too much about this because they know they ain't gonna play it. But tares, I'll just say tear blood. That are technically like clones. And that's why they won't put the one scripture in there that talks about where the white people really come from. That was from the book of Adam, I believe I was reading. And so they won't tell you that. That's why they in the churches they say, "Oh, we're all equal in God's eyes, and the Father sees all children the same." And right there in the scripture it says, "No." It says to the Jews first, then the Gentiles. But here's where the devil deceives the whole world. Who are the Jews and who are the Gentiles? And so he made a group of people, as our Messiah put it bluntly in Revelation, that claimed to be the Jews, and they said, "This is our book. We wrote this. We wrote the Torah. We wrote the first 5 books of the Old Testament." And it's like, well, then who wrote the rest? If you only accept the first 5 books of the Old Testament, then what about the rest of the Old Testament? Who did that? And see, that's where you gotta really stop and think. Okay, something's not right with what they do, and then of course when they go into the Talmuds, oh man, some of that stuff they're saying there, I'm like, wow, that's all. Because they even named a month after the false Messiah himself. So that should tell you that's Babylonian stuff that they're talking. The Kabbalah. Jewish mysticism, as it's called. The way they like to do things, the way they talk about how it's like going back to the Canaanite days. It's like, wow, you can marry a 3-year-old. This is this type of stuff. That anybody who sells to the Gentiles shall be killed on the spot, and it's like, the Most High doesn't even talk like that among y'all, among his people. So why would you now, if you do the law, even Moses didn't say some of the stuff that they say in the Talmud, and that's why you gotta sit back and say, what? How can this be? When I see the way they treat people over in Israel, it's like, what scripture does it say that when you come back home, that that's supposed to be his land? Where does it say you get to mistreat people? I don't see it. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is because the people who are the real people aren't paying attention, this is what they get away with. Until finally now, people when this whole thing, like what the Most I said, when people don't even know what's gonna hit them. I mean, this is why in the scriptures it says, when it talks about, those that are asleep, and he says that they'll keep watch because you don't know the hour. This is why so many people are so, even Christians are so blown away by this virus because it's like, y'all don't get it, man. This is the time. And this is why I remember I listened to a lady on Twitter. She said, "Aren't y'all supposed to be gone already by the rapture based upon what's happening?" And I kind of had to chuckle because this is exactly why people that mentality has been twisted. Because I was having a conversation with my neighbor, they're Christians, and they're like, "We don't know what's going on. We don't know what to believe anymore." See, they're already starting to doubt these preachers. They already starting to wait. Well, how come we can't come to church? I don't understand it. Y'all supposed to be healing us. It's already the questioning is already beginning over here. About they're preachers, but then some of them are. I mean, the ones that are really brainwashed. See, because like I know I have family members that have lost people, and the most devastating thing to them that they want to hear is after what they've gone through, because they really didn't know the Bible that well, and now they're into it really much, a lot more because of the death. To hear now that, oh, it's not all correct, it's going to be like, well, why would they do that to us? And why, they take advantage of our grief. And that's the main reason why people don't want to believe their pastor's lying to them, because they say, what kind of a man would take advantage of our grief? Well, that's because you don't know where you're at. You're living in the Babylonian Empire, and they can't tell you that. And you're living in the world of the balls, and they can't tell you that, because they will be, even if either they don't know, or if they do, their lives are at stake because they're more afraid of the devil than the Most High. And that's the sad part about the Banabetu people who converted over to who joined the Masons, who did all this stuff, and they're so afraid of what the devil gonna do that they forget the Most High can do much worse to them. Because like he said, fear not the one that can kill the body, but fear the one that can kill the body and the spirit, and cast them both into hell. And that's where these fallen beings have twisted it and said, "Oh no, we created I know one person said that the Bible was created so that by the Anunnaki, so that they can have a way to manipulate how we acted." I was sitting there like, so then why have a false Messiah if you made up the book? Why do you even need this character? Because if it's all a lie, then you already got everybody under control, so you don't need to lie about nothing. You see, you don't have to tell people about science and all this other stuff that you did and all this other stuff that they're trying to mislead people by. Because if the Bible is made up in the first place, then what do you need to tell? What do you need anything else to lie to people about? Because they're not telling the truth. Okay, so I just want to say this in closing, that we are in a time, because in my life I have seen the visions. I have actually I've been there. There is going to be a major event that is going to take this country even further towards the beast system, or the NW, or they call it the New World Order, whatever you want to call it, because that is where they know that they cannot allow the reaction to be out of control when all these lies are revealed. They know that they have to have everything in place for this falling away that's going to take place when people just lose it over what they've been told. And this is why they're getting ready. And the virus was the catalyst for that. I even told my wife, I said, when Kobe Bryant, I say quote unquote died because I know how he's affiliated in the Masonry world, that his name alone was the catalyst that they're saying, here comes the rise of Yakubi. Okay, the quote unquote, as they mock us, the Planet of the Apes. And then of course the people flipped out when they said that COVID in Hebrew was Kobe. And they're like, oh, they're trying to tell us that they really killed Kobe, but they don't see the connection. No, this virus's name is connected to the Bantu awakening. Okay, this virus, Koba. That's why even they named the ape. When in the Planet of Apes, that Caesar said, "I didn't start this war, but I'm going to finish it." Well, and the apes name was Koba. Koba is and Pastor Miller probably knows this better than anybody. The Koba used in the Bantu language, Kakongo, is the nickname, the reference to Yakobi, Jacob. And I even looked it up. And what he was trying to say is Yisolele started the war against the Romans. Okay, we started the war when we didn't accept the Messiah and crucified him, and then we turned around and we wanted the Romans out because they started putting stuff in the temple and they didn't want that. So that's what they were really trying to say is the Messiah didn't start the war. Yakubi did with the Edomites. But now he's come to finish it. And this is exactly what Simeon Tokul, I believe, was trying to tell his people, that I'm here to now complete and this is why, when Pastor Mello was saying that he didn't really die and he went to the Father's mountain, this is why we're awakening. More and more people are waking up because the time is coming around for the Messiah to finish what Yakubi started. We the ones that turned away from the Father and lost our kingdom because we didn't want to do what he said. So now he's come, now that the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled, okay, and that Yisolele has been trodden down for Gentiles for generations now. And it's the end of the age of Esau, like it says in 2nd Ezra. And now Jacob is the beginning. That started when they were trying to hide the truth about that Aztec calendar, that they actually were aware of the age of Esau and the year in Jacob, but they didn't want to tell you that. So that's what they were saying in 2012. What really happened was this was the beginning of the cleansing. And this is why a lot of people are starting to question what they're hearing in the churches, especially now that they're learning the truth about the Messiah being black. It's starting to become, because the internet really started, when things started, the internet changed a lot of things about knowledge. And people are starting to realize, whoa, they black, this stuff. And Jesus was black and God, they're starting to say, okay. And like the Most High said, well, technically, there was never any such thing as white people. It's you either have melanin, you have different shades of melanin, which is something that took place, through the process of them wanting to erase our identity, but also because, like it said in Genesis, the fallen angels created these beings before and after, and that's where Atlantis played a role. Atlantis was the isle of the Gentiles because that's where these fallen beings, and this is where High showed me. He said, if you go to the scripture about Peleg in the book of Jasher, it talks about where the earth, the people were divided, and then the earth became divided. So when the Most High destroyed Atlantis is when the continent split. That's why it went down so fast. They people end up the story over and then they turn again. No, Nimrod had people worshiping these people, man. He had them worshiping these deities, just like they showed you in the movie. It was the Alien versus Predator. Alien versus Predator is the fight between the luminaries or the fallen angels and Anakim. That's why they're serpents, because the Anakim are serpent seed, and they stole the knowledge to create the people. And apparently, like they said, I read in a book where it says they was hidden underneath the Sphinx, and Yakubi had some role in that because he was able to break down the different variations of skin color on black people, and that's where you started to get the albinos became more prevalent. Even after happened with Canaan, and that's where you started to get the division and then those people, after they were taught how to live, began to erase the black people, and that's why they started changing history and you know um, conquering nations and trying to get rid of the black people because they wanted to be the ruling, the dominant, and the fallen angels and the Anakim started to take the image of those people to be, affiliated with, whatever role whoever was dominant. So that's why they made sure that we thought that our creator was white because they wanted to be on the side of those who dominated, even though in secret they know that even they are black. Um, when I had the encounter with the false messiah's mother, she was blonde hair, blue eyed, with a reptilian body, and I'm like, when Babylon was in power and Nimrod was ruling, when she was with him, she was not that complexion. So you know they changed themselves so that they can blend in with. They blend in really good. They're in Hollywood. That's why I was gonna tell Pastor Mello. I said the hardest part about trying to get the message in America is you gotta get it by the reptilians because they everywhere. They look like us. They look like white. They look like people. They in the politics. They in the Hollywood. They all over in various places. But then they're the ones running the secret society meetings. You know, doing the worshiping, the rituals, and all that. And because the whore had, that's why she's the harlot. She became the breeder for all of these people, and now she ain't breeding no more because they get rid. She can't take no more now. That's why they're tearing everything down. So you know, this is why, as you can see, they're now realizing since Simon came and that they're losing the now that they're realizing the Messiah. That's why they didn't want to tell you because if they had told you if Simon was here, they would have started losing control along. That's why they want to reveal the third secret of Fatima because they would these ball crypt beings would have lost the power. They would have lost control long before this happened because then even the whites that they supposedly keep control would have been like, hey, we've been messing up the wrong people. They would have had to stop. They're like, wait a minute, he really is black. And look what we're doing to these black people. We lynching them. We doing, and that's what they didn't want. That's why they started the mind control programming with all the electronic devices and why they do cell phone technology, what they got from the fallen angels, and why they do a lot of this stuff, TV things that they do and music, because they send these waves through the air, and that's why when I had to kind of laugh when they wanted to shut down people talking about 5G and everything because they don't. This is the whole point. They don't want you to know what they're doing because when it comes time to bring people over to the beast system, they want it to be where you just don't take it because this is how you don't know the alternative. You don't know Isaiah. You don't know Isaiah. You don't know about Congo. You don't know about the Bantu. You don't know who the real. You don't understand. You don't want to leave Egypt when the time come. And then of course, if you don't take it, like the most I said, the terrorists go, they burn, they gone, they done, that's it because they're not his people. They worshiping the false messiah. They worshiping they're in the whore, the harlot, and he said they don't come out of the harlot. By the time I pull the plug, you with the harlot for eternity. And see, that's why I've been trying to tell people to get through their heads that This is what I was going to tell you. He revealed this to me. He said, "This is what it really means to repent." In the scriptures, is to break free of these demonic entities that are in control of the world that you don't know that they run the system. That's what it means when he said, "Come out of the world." The Messiah meant, I know Simeon Toka going to tell Pastor Miller this, but coming out of the world means to come away from these ball creatures, the Balaam, all of them, to come away. I know I shouldn't be saying these names, but people gotta understand that this is what he's talking about when he said come out of the world, because these entities created the world mentality that you gotta have wealth, you gotta have, that's why the secret societies, why they make these blood sacrifice deals with them, because they give them whatever they want. Well, they give them gold, they give them all kind of stuff, make them rich. But then the horse who they gotta steal it from the most high. That's the part they don't tell them, because they gotta this money they come and they stole it. They gotta get it from the most high, in many cases. I know that some of them can make the gold out, kind of similar, but I mean, the point is, they're being angelic beings, the wealth and the riches, they got to get it from somewhere, so this is how they make them wealthy. This is why they come into Africa and, and pull all the resources out of these reptilians and making them do it, because they hate us. They hate the most, they hate especially Nimrod, because Esau cut his head off, Jasher. And he hated Abraham ever since Abraham turned against his gods, Abana, our father Abana. And so because of that, he's been chasing us. That's why I keep trying to tell people in the Bantu culture that, yeah, I get all the things in my I don't know if he's going to reveal this to y'all or not. I mean, because this is the thing that the Most High showed me, is that the false Messiah knows where all of us are. He's been chasing us since. That's why even Peter said, Kepa said, there's, and Sola said, there's been false messiahs even till now. The spirit's been in the world, because he's been chasing the Bantu people since the fall of Babylon, since he died, since Esau killed him and thought he was gonna lose. That's one of the reasons why I found out why he gave up his birthright, because he thought he was gonna die. And Jacob said, "Give it to me then." And the Most High got upset, because he's like, "You didn't. How do you know? You can't sit there and say that you're gonna die." And he said, even if you did die, you don't give up your birthright. And that's kind of one of the things that got him upset with him. You know, and because Esau didn't die, that was a stupid thing to do. And that's why he turned against us, because he's like, man, I got robbed twice. Because his mindset is, I got robbed by the blessing, and then I got robbed by giving my birthright. I thought I was going to die, and I didn't die. And so now that's why, unfortunately, this is where you get that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So even though he killed Nimrod, him and Nimrod buddy, to come after Yakubi, because I hate the Most High just as much as you do. Because look what happened to me. Even though and that's why when he stole Adam's clothes, that's why Esau has so much power in this world, because he took Adam's clothes from Nimrod. And his power that, I guess Adam had his clothes that made him kind of like an invincible person that nobody could touch him, that the Most High made when he was in the garden. And now when they got taken to on the ark, like it says in Jasher, and I'm hoping, Jasher seemed pretty accurate, because, I look at it thinking like, okay, now Genesis makes more sense. But it's like, well, that's why he took the clothes. That's why Esau was able to be such a powerful force in the earth, because now he carried that our grandfather's clothes with him, and was able to do the things that he did. And so And unfortunately, like the Most High showed me, he says, well, he still has the reason why his wealth is so great in the nation is because he still carries Yiseka's blessings. You know, when Yiseka, Most High blessed Yiseka, and he blessed Abana, um, you know, he broke his yoke from us because he took the opportunity to dominate because we messed up. He's like, oh, look, Yakubi fell. I'm about to take over. You know, because when we turned away from the Most High, all those times he's like, oh, this is okay, let's do this. You know, and that's basically what he did with some of these other nations. You know, he formed alliances to get back at Yakubi, and he's been doing it ever since. And that's why Ezra had said, you know, this is again, as I'm learning about the Bantu perspective. I mean, this is how we would do. I see my brother fall. Oh yeah, I'm taking over. You know, they say that's how we. That's why the Messiah got us so upset with us because it's like we took advantage of each other when we saw our enemies fall. That's why he said to love your enemies. You know, as the Bantu people, we are to love our enemies, not to just love our friends. You know, because even they said, just like I said, even the Bongo, the Gentiles love their enemy. I mean, love their friends. And because they said Yakubu, you saw the opportunity. Like, oh, Yakubu, when we lost Yusolile, or we became taken, you know, orphans from the Most High at that point. Esau was like, oh man, I'm gonna move. This is it. I could take off. I could be in charge of this whole thing. You know, his people saw the opportunity. Like, oh man, Yakubi fell. Yakubi got kicked out of Esau. You know, that's the mindset of the Bantu. You know, if you look at even in Africa today, you know, the kings that were there, like, man, this king fell, I'm gonna take his stuff. You know, that's kind of how it is, and that's why we, you know, that's why the Most High said, well, the end of the age is Esau, because he done him and Nimrod, they running through the whole world, just tearing it up. I'm taking down all this stuff, and Yakubi is the beginning of the next age, and that's why we have to realize, as the Bantu people, the Banabetu, you know, the house of, you know, we need to realize we need to quit fighting each other, you know, and quit, um, even black people here in America, we need to quit with all the bickering and who's better or who's this and that, because now they really coming down on us. Because they know that once we get the word goes out like, whoa, what? I mean, even my dad, you know, when I'm explaining to him, he's like, you know, now it's starting to click a little bit. He's starting like, okay, as I'm showing him these videos about the Bantu people and everything, he's like, okay, now slavery makes sense, what they were trying to do. And of course, when we ran into the lady, and what's sad is that in the Caribbean, a lot of people know that's not even like there's a lady I went to the island of Curacao. I told you before, and the lady's like, "Yeah, we know we just can't say it out loud," and that's what the Most High hates. I'm pretty sure Simeon Toko was the one trying to tell people that he hates it when you just sit there and say, "Yeah, we know we're the real Jews," and then we just shut up. That's why he said that if you're embarrassed of me in public or here, then I'm embarrassed for you in front of the Father, because we're not recognizing who we are. We're so scared to proclaim this to the heathens. No, we know we're the real Hebrews. We can, and that's where the protection plays the role. I mean, look at Simon Toko. I mean, they wanted to kill that man every time they got, and the Most High was like, no. You know, to show you that he has the authority over that. And I understand a lot of his preachers got killed and everything, and that that's kind of goes along with what happened in the days of Rome. Like I said, he's gonna be hated for his name's sake. But the spirit of the Most High would have risen up huge, especially here in America, if we would have stopped saying we're not the real Jews. If we would have said, if we would stop kowtowing to it and so say, yeah, we're the real Hebrews. What are you going, we know our Messiah is black. We know the Bantu, the Bakongo people. We know all of that. If we would have been, more, if we become more vocal, there's nothing there they can try to nuke everything. But I'm pretty sure the Most High is gonna step in and be like, oh no, you don't get that ability. That's kind of what we need to realize is that when it's time for they don't have permission to annihilate us. They already know that. They're gonna keep trying, but they don't have permission, and that's why this whole world gonna be so jacked up because of everything they've been trying to do to get rid of us comes back on them. You know. And I know this has been a little long, but I really wanted to get into some, because I know it's been a while. I really wanted to get into this because Pastor Mello has definitely opened up some avenues in my brain. This is why they spend so much time finding ways to poison us with food and water. And that's one of the things that many of these people in Africa don't understand is that there's a dumbing down process that we have to overcome to know the Bantu people are the Hebrews, and that is included in how they messed up. Why we can't connect spiritually is because they did stuff to our bodies to remove that capability. And I don't know if Simeon Toko's discussed that with any of the people he talks to, but in America, that's why the Most High said this is why we had to start really paying attention to what we eat and drink, because my awakening was affiliated with a fast. Because they don't, in this country, especially, even in Christianity, unlike Islam, they don't make it something that you should do. They don't encourage it. And one of the reasons why they don't encourage it is because they know what's going to happen. When you start to fast and pray, then it's like, whoa, because now I know that the purpose of fasting is to weaken the wicked beings around us that have been attached to us, even by name. So, just to give you an example, I'm talking about the Masons or the secret societies have taken almost every Egyptian name or deity, and not only has their name show up in our English writing in the Bible, but it shows up everywhere. So when, like, say for example, Happy, okay, that's a Egyptian goddess or god or whatever it is now. What is it? Set. They know why they put that in there. They what's his name? What's the other one? The HORSE. This is a revelation. I didn't even know why they started calling that animal that, because that is livestock are affiliated with HORUS because of the bull's head. So when they call the animal that revived the HORSE, you're saying the same thing, HORUS. And I was like, oh, see, they done tricked a lot of things with us. And then what was the other thing? This is why we gotta start learning how to speak Kikongo, because the English language is a trap language for demonic. Oh, this is why so many of our people are addicted to lust, because they put the demon of lust in our vocabulary, and he attacks the weakest ones, and so PAN is everywhere. I think I mentioned this to Brother Cholombo when they call it PAN Africanism. I said, now that's probably why they did that, because now they can attach him to the demon of lust all in Africa. That's why they running rampant, doing what they do because of that. And and unfortunately, there's another one is the Nimrod's mother has so many different names. So people name their kids and they attach the demon to them. So if you're a Bantu and you name your child Diana, then his mother is now attached to your child because of her name. Or if you name her Inna, which uh, Ainna, because I know people have named their child that, I'm like, you don't even know what you just named your kid. And then I found out that Amy is a demon. And so when you call, and this is why, a lot of these people don't understand that this is the dumbing down of America. Because the secret society people, they encourage attaching the demonic. And this is why the awakening is so hard over here, because they know that they did this. It's so hard to make people see clearly, because it's like the minute you see one thing, another demon shut you down because you're still attached to it. And see, the one thing that they don't teach us properly, like in Kikongo and the Bantu language, is how to properly cast out demons. The Most High had to show me that the Messiah, and I'm sure Simon Toko probably will make this clear if he so chooses. And I learned this even through Johnny John, is that all of his things were done through the Father. And so that's why they took his name away from us. So when you cast out people, you casting out people, demons, and that's why people say, well, we said it in the name of Jesus, but Jesus never did anything in his own name. He did it in the Father's name, and that's the trick. And I'm sure Simon Toko probably made that clear. And that's why he was able to manifest, because he knew he was through the Father. And so one of the things that I did when I learned about the true name of Yahweh is I know he's the son of Yahweh. So I said that's why I know there was a guy that was he was a Bantu that was a Mason in Florida that was stealing the Messiah's name by calling himself Yahweh ben Yahweh. Okay? And I know Yahweh is popular, thing in Bantu culture, what Yahweh means, and he was saying he was the Messiah, that the Most High had given him the power. You can look this up, and I'm sure Simon Toko is aware of this, because he was controlling Florida, where a lot of black people, a lot of Bantu people were. That's why I think that's why they set him up there. But he was a Hebrew Israelite, calling himself Yahweh ben Yahweh. And what he did was, he said, I am the one the world's been waiting for. And they literally believed this guy. And the Most High was trying to show me, well, he's stealing the name that helps you cast out demons. Yahweh ben Yahweh, which is one of the Yapoa, I think is how we say it in the Kikongo. And when my wife was a smoker, and I used that on her, and she's like, I don't even want to smoke no more. And that's when I started to realize, and I actually had pan off my back for a while. And boy, I know you guys got a lot of witches in Africa, but here, they stay hidden, but they casted a net over America. It's like whenever they do their rituals or their satanic stuff, these witches, they come out, man, and they really just they try to block everything. And it was a pastor who was in Missouri, and he said that witches were our biggest problem, and they killed him. Later on, he died later. He died, and he was revealing some things about he was being in Africa, and That's why his wife made a bunch of videos on him, and I can't remember his name, Pastor was started with a D, but anyway, yeah, he mentioned that the biggest problem with the Bantu people or the Hebrews in America are witches and warlocks because that's what they put out through the music and they put out through their television screens, and this is why this awakening. That's why what's happening to people like myself and probably even Issachar and others is, they're saying this isn't supposed to even be. It's not even supposed to be able to happen because because they're like, how was this? We have it so. We have our own spells spinning around this country, and they bounce off of all their statues, and they have pyramids that they made now here, man-made pyramids, and that's why they won't even let you study the pyramids. And some guy said when they built the pyramid in Las Vegas, they won't even let you know how they did it. And then the one that's in Memphis, you know. So what they did was they bouncing off these, and then of course One World Trade. That's why people say there's so many weird noises coming out of that thing because it's a portal. It can open up portals, and so this is the issue that we're running into in this awakening. That's why I'm trying to help people, and we're trying to help people over here. It's good to bring this back to message and know that I'm learning more about, because it is so hard to get separated from these fallen angels because they've made a deal. See, here's what they've done. They've made a deal with our government and our military and all these other people that you're not aware of, like the Pentagon and stuff. And NORAD's over here. I'm in Colorado. NORAD has a machine in there. I've been in there, and it's it's a trip. But this thing is really blocking. You know, they did. There's a guy who was a Mason. They said they found a way to harness the energy that comes through the earth, especially here in America, because the lines that run, the earth has energy fields that, they said that this is the spirituality that we have that, helps. That's why sometimes we run around barefoot. Or the Most High knows this better than we do, that the earth is our mother. And so what they did was they put energy. The fallen angels showed them how to counter the energy in this side of the world, and that's why your spirituality is never manifested unless you actually go on the demonic side, where that's when they can lie to you. So the people who control the world over here, they fast and pray and they eat the right foods and stuff, but they channel themselves through the demonic to help block the spirituality that needs to happen to the Bantus. So and this is why we, when Jonathan Schlumber says teach spirituality, we want to. We really hope, and this is why we're getting this message, trying to get this message out even over here. Because, one of the things, that's why I try to tell them about Native Americans. I'm like, I don't think they realize how spiritual those people were. That's why they told the Lakota to stop doing the ghost dance. And that's why I was telling this one, I was talking to the Zulu people, and I said, the reason why Custer got his butt kicked is because they used the same strategy as the Zulus, where they just kept coming at you and they didn't stop. And even if you shot one, they didn't stop to pick him up or nothing. Because when the Zulus went against because I know the Zulus are the army of Dawidi, as they talk about, and they just kept running. Well, when they went against Custer, they came in waves. It just kept coming and kept coming. And that's why Custer was like, man, I can't. and his his reinforcement didn't get there in time, and they surrounded him, and that's why he, they say that's the really the real reason why they really did those people dirty was because um that was their man, that was the Mason's man. He was representing the image of his long golden hair and blue eyes. You know who that represents, and he was very you know the Mason the what had happened was the Lakota broke the treaty which the Masons had set up to kill Custer, and that's why they really jacked those people up in the Black Hills. And they went and did the ghost dance. Well, you know, that spirituality caused them to see the victory, kind of like how we do, and that's why the one Bantu lady said they gotta be that's gotta be Bantu spirituality that they were practicing because they used Bantu names that she discovered, and that some of the stuff that they were practicing were like Bantu spirituality. And when I saw the Lakota woman that they put in here, and I almost fell over because I saw that image, and she was a dark face, and she had on the cape and blue borders, and the moccasins were all turquoise. Her moccasins were all turquoise, and she had the fringes at the bottom, and the turquoise outline like the tribe of Gada, and the stars like we see and for the angel of healing, this similar star. And I was like, whoa, look at this. And that's why I said somebody lying. And they said it represented the type of people that lived here in Pueblo. And I said, the Most High said, you're in Pueblo because Bantus were here. And they're lying too. That's why the Masons have done they put a lot of calcium in the water here in Pueblo. And they put a lot of, and even when I told them, I said, oh, well, we get our water source from this place. And they did that on purpose because it picks up a lot of calcium. And they put a lot of fluoride in the water. And they really hate outsiders coming into Pueblo talking to the people here because that was part of the reason. It's like, oh, well, then they're going to find out who they are, who we conquered here in Pueblo. And that's why I was trying to get, I know Chulama got a little upset with me, and I was like, it's not that I was trying to tell you that you don't speak. He said, my message is for the Bantus, but I was trying to explain to these guys is that there were Bantus already here. But because of the distance that they had, the time that they have been away from Isolele, like 1,000 years or more, it changes how they talk. The Most High would be around them, but the Most High kind of, like he said, he forgot his people there a little bit. He still kept the spirituality going, but it's like it's kind of like how the languages aren't pure in Africa. Well, that's kind of how. If you're Bantus and you left Africa 1,000 years before slavery even started, and you lived in this part of the world, your Bantu would not sound like the people back in Africa anymore because you don't speak it right. Plus, you're interacting with the Shemites and the Hamites that live here, so it changes the way you speak. So, and that's kind of why they know why they made the Bible Belt, was affiliated with some of that stuff, is, and see, like that the Most High said Nimrod knew who the Masons were killing in these massacres. That's why it took so long for them to finally say that it was a massacre and not a battle. Like they used to say, wounded knee battle, or the court, or the Lakota massacre was a battle, and why they said Cherokee, the, what do you call it? The Sand Creek was a battle and not a massacre. And I actually made a discovery when I was looking through the Cheyenne, and their name is a modified. They spelling it wrong because the way they spell it now is not the way it was originally. But when I looked at the origin of the name Cheyenne, it has a Bantu spelling, a Kikongo spelling, and it meant but they turned it into where it says they call themselves the abandoned ones is what Cheyenne actually originally. It's like they're saying they're like orphans, and that's why I was like, wow, cause why do they call themselves orphans? And it's weird because when you look at the name, it's like we're orphan people. Is what it means. Like they have no father. And I was like, so kind of what happened with the Bantus. We kind of got orphaned, So it was weird, but I mean, it's when you talk to someone about it, it's like, well, we got amnesia. So I remember they were interviewing this guy, and he was going over all the, how people call the Great Spirit and the different names they use, and then he mentioned in his conversation, well, yeah, we said Yehovah, and I was like, whoa, and this is the people, that we're trying to say aren't Bantu, and I'm like, well, no, the point is Native American or Indian was a derogatory term. That was not the name. That was the way Indian, if you actually go look it up, because the country of India wasn't even called India when they came over here. It was had a different name, and Indian was a British. The name Indian was a British derogatory name for the. It's kind of like calling them niggers. It's kind of what it's like, So, um, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is, Because like I said, I've studied some of these languages over here, and I'm seeing the Bantu words and what they're saying. So it can't be that they're not all Shemites, because I know as I learned America was really Shem's land when it was all one continent. That's why they're lying about the breakup of the continent, that Shem's land was part of this and so was Europe. Why Nimrod wants to destroy it, because he hated Shem so bad. But you know, anyway, those are some of the revelations I had, and I wanted to say that CME Kimbo Tapanzambi Yamazulu Mortondo, to all those that have brought through this Bantu spirituality that has kind of allowed me to come full circle with a lot of things that I've been, you know, excuse me, really grateful for the knowledge. Pastor Miller mentioned something about me when I said some of my visions that it seemed like I was pretty prophetic. Most to me, I always thought I was just a messenger. Watchman, really. And so I'm hoping that y'all get a chance to see this. I'm gonna let you know that I posted it, and you can leave comments. Tell me what you think. If I'm wrong, I'm not the kind of person that's gonna be like some of the other guys and just be like, no, that's not right. I know you know more about the Bantus than I do. I just know that the Most High has revealed to me that we've been scattered in every single form of slavery. We were scattered in the Assyrian slavery. We were scattered in the Roman slavery. We were scattered even in the Egyptian slavery. Because I didn't even know there was an Egyptologist, and they said that there's a reason why they lied about the Egyptians not even being able to sail, because it would have proven that we got scattered in that slavery too. The Egyptians actually sent us when they remember, because remember the Egyptians were fighting wars with enemies, and so uh, sometimes the slave whenever Egypt was getting conquered, um, we got scattered when they took the slaves. At the time, in those times we stayed there, and so we got scattered that way, or we were used as payment, just like how it was on our stock market, where they used the stock market for the currency. That sometimes payment to any one of their adversaries was slaves. So we got scattered, you know, quite a bit, and that's why when you see people who do research on America and other countries, they're like, how come we're seeing this Hebrew language in different places and it's older than Jesus? One person actually said that they looked at this. Where was it? They found a stone. I think it was in South America or somewhere that had the Bantu language on it, the Paleo Hebrew, and they said it was from the tribe of Dana. They said that Dan's name was on it, and they're like, why is it here before? Because I guess they were Hebrew Israelites that were doing the study, and they said this stone is here before the fall of Jerusalem, and they said it's older than the stuff that they've seen from its fall of Jerusalem time, I guess. But anyway, and they were like, and there's a guy who was a Christian. He was trying to do research on the Israelites, and he ran into paleontologists that said, well, yeah, we found stuff older than Jesus in other parts of the world. So that's when the Most High was really showing me that, well, yeah, I mean, every captivity, Nimrod's, the false Messiah and his people, they lying about how people used to go around the world, because that's the whole part of the delusion, is to keep control, is to make a society think that they're the ones that are the first in doing something. So the way you keep the American people thinking that we're the best nation that ever lived is we created everything that they do, that we do, like going to the moon, or any type of thing that's accomplished that's American. We're the first. So they don't want the mindset to get out that says, oh, well, other civilizations before you could do this. Because then it's like, what? Okay, because then history is a lie. Because like I've learned, these fallen angels, or even these Anakim, they control what comes out in the history books, because they don't want people to know that the people in the ancient times were smarter and more capable than the generation now. So they actually knew how to circumvent, and they knew then what the topography of the earth was really like. And this is why they don't want you to know about those maps. So anyway, Matondo for your time, hopefully, and Kimbo, Atanzambi, Amazulu. Blessings be upon Simon Toko. Blessings be upon Simon Kimbango. I know his soul rest. And blessings be upon all the Bantus. And I'm praying for all the Congo people, the Congolese people, to come together and stop all the bloodshed. And I pray for this awakening, that people will, like I remember Jonathan recommended to all the people to tweet the Vatican, because I know I tweeted him, I told him I tweeted the Vatican, and then Jonathan came up with the tweet the Vatican. I was like, oh, so I don't know if that was connected or not. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm being arrogant or nothing, but was kind of strange that he mentioned. I said, "Oh, that's what I told Pastor Miller. I tweeted the Vatican." So I was like, that was kind of trip. But hey, hopefully that'll do some things in Kimball. And I hope you guys can hear this, and I'll be glad to hear your feedback. Salama.